Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another review, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. A lot went down in this episode, so let's just get right into this review. So at the very beginning of this episode, everybody heads to Canada for Spice and Renni's trip, and look, there are definitely some people on this trip that do not like each other. There's Bambi and Sierra, and then there's Karlie and Spice on this trip together, so you know there might be some type of drama, but Spice allowed everybody to invite whoever they wanted to because she wanted it to be a healing trip. Now, on the way to the hotel, Zel ends up telling Spice, Renni, Kirk, and Rashida about the fight that he had with Saucy Santana in the previous episode. Zel said that he went to go confront Saucy Santana because he hadn't heard from him in over a week, and so he decided to go see for himself what Saucy Santana had been up to. He feels like Saucy is like up and down too much, like he's too hot and cold. He never knows when they're in a really good place because Santana doesn't always act like he's interested in Zel. And to be fair, Saucy Santana did say in his interview in the previous episode that he wasn't really feeling Zel anymore and he wanted to be done with the relationship, but instead of ghosting Zel for a whole week, he should have just told him that he didn't want to be with him anymore. Now, they end up getting into this huge argument that ends up turning almost physical with each other because they start throwing insults at one another, and then all of a sudden, this whole cheating thing ends up coming up because basically Zel said that Saucy Santana cheated on him, and Santana admitted that he did tell Zel that 4 months ago he cheated on him, and Zel decided to stay in that relationship. Now, look, I saw both sides of that situation because I understand how Zel can feel some type of way because he did decide to stay in that relationship with Saucy Santana after finding out that he cheated, but I can understand how he could feel some type of way if Saucy Santana starts acting hot and cold with him. He never really knows if they're in a good place. So when Saucy Santana starts acting standoffish towards Zel, Zel's immediately going to think that Saucy Santana is cheating. But I also see Saucy Santana's side of things because Zel knew that Saucy Santana cheated on him and he decided to stay in the relationship anyway. You would think that if you're going to stay in that relationship with somebody who cheated on you, then you're going to let it go and move on. And if you can't, then you shouldn't stay in the relationship because that's going to make both people miserable. One person's going to be miserable because they feel like they're being cheated on all the time, and then the other person is going to be miserable because they're constantly going to be accused of cheating. So I honestly feel like the relationship just needs to end. Now, there was also some tension between Sierra and Bambi, and when they were all in the car together, Renni decided that she was going to try to break the ice between the two of them and tell them that they should address whatever issues that they have with each other. And look, I understand that Renni wants this to be a healing trip and she wants everybody to work out their issues with each other, but I think it would be best if she stayed out of it and let people talk on their own terms, on their own time, because if you force people to talk when they're not ready to, things are not going to go well and everything's going to get a lot worse. And I can tell that at this moment, it wasn't the right time for Bambi and Sierra to talk. Sierra was telling Bambi that she felt like Bambi wasn't there for her when everybody was attacking her about that whole safari situation last season, but Bambi feels like she shouldn't have had to go on social media and argue with trolls on the internet in order to prove that she was a real friend to Sierra. And look, I understand where Sierra's coming from. She probably was being attacked by some people because they felt like it was wrong that she waited to tell Erica Mena about Safari trying to get with her, but at the same time, I don't really feel like, Bambi should have had to go on social media to defend her because I don't see Sierra online defending her against Mama D and everybody else who attacks Bambi every day on social media, so I just don't think that that's really fair. And then on top of that, even though Sierra was going through something at the time, so was Bambi. Bambi had this whole public divorce with Scrappy. She was being attacked by Erica Dixon, Diamond, Mama D, and Scrappy all on social media. And she was also being attacked by fans on social media. So I just feel like Sierra is expecting too much from Bambi at this point because obviously Bambi has her own things that she's going through. I just feel like there was a way for the two of them to handle this situation to where it didn't have to turn into them not being friends with each other anymore. If Sierra felt like Bambi wasn't being there for her when she really needed her to be, I feel like that was a conversation that she should have had with Bambi one-on-one instead of automatically feeling some type of way and jumping on social media, shading Bambi all the time and telling people that they were no longer friends. I just felt like they could have handled it a lot better. Now, Sierra does end up telling Zel and Amy later on in the episode that she also had an issue with the fact that Bambi didn't come out and say that she knew about the whole Safari situation, because she acted like she didn't know about it when it was brought to Erica Mena's attention. And I understand where Sierra's coming from, because if Bambi knew about it, she probably should have came out and said that she did know. But I also feel like Sierra told Bambi not to say anything about it to anybody, including Erica. Erica is the one who came out and talked about it publicly, not Bambi. So I feel like she should be mad at Erica Mena for that. I just don't really feel like it was Bambi's place to come out and say anything about it. And I also feel like Sierra shouldn't have told Bambi first about the situation. She should have told Erica Mena the situation first. And Karlie is in the other car telling the girls that even though she agreed to come on this trip to Canada, there's still some tension between her and Spice. She said that she felt some type of way about the way that Spice attacked her in the Bahamas, and that's the reason why she has problems with Spice right now. And I understand where Karlie is coming from, because I do think that Spice was wrong a lot of the time in the Bahamas. I feel like she was just going off on everybody. And yes, she had a really serious situation happen to her, but I don't think that that's an excuse to treat people any type of way. And so I'm not going to give her the pass on that, because I just feel like even if you're going through something, you still don't have to treat people like that. Now, I do think that Spice has some legitimate reasons to have issues with Karlie, because Karlie is a type of person who throws rocks and hides her hand. She does a lot of shady stuff and a lot of messy stuff, and then she tries to act like she doesn't know what people are talking about when she gets confronted about it. But I still think that Spice could have handled that situation a lot better, and I think Spice knows that she could have handled that situation better. And I think the problem that a lot of people are having with Spice is that she doesn't really take accountability for what she does wrong. Like, she won't really say that she's wrong in a situation, even if I think she knows she was wrong. And then out of nowhere, Jessica White ends up jumping into the conversation and co-signing everything that Karlie was saying about Spice, because she said that when she was in the Bahamas with Spice, Spice treated her some type of way too, and she didn't understand why. And so she wants to address the issues that she has with Spice as well. Now look, I can understand that maybe Spice was a little bit rude to Jessica White one time on the trip to the Bahamas, but I also feel like Jessica White is looking for a storyline, because she really doesn't have one. Now, later that night, they all end up getting together for dinner, and Zel decides that he wants to try to break the ice, because he can tell that there's a lot of tension at the dinner table. And so he starts pointing out the fact that both Karlie and Spice are finally sitting at the same table, as well as Bambi and Sierra. And that's when Sierra starts saying that even though she has some issues with Bambi, she still was happy to see her on the trip. But listen, Sierra was all over the place, and I don't know if it's because she drank too much at dinner, but one minute she was saying that she was happy that Bambi was on the trip. Then the next minute she starts getting annoyed at the fact that Bambi and Jessica White wore matching fur coats at the airport. And then the next minute she started saying that maybe her and Bambi should have a private one-on-one conversation, which they already did that a few episodes ago. And they both agreed that even though they don't hate each other, they're just gonna leave it the way that it is, and they can be cordial with one another. So I don't understand why they need another conversation, but that's what Sierra is saying she wants to do now. But Bambi did not really say much at the dinner table, and she said that she didn't want to make it seem like she was being negative or that she was trying to purposely ruin the trip, and that's the reason why she decided to keep her cool and not really say much. That was probably the right thing to do, because if she did say something and her and Sierra would have got into it, it would have looked like she was the bad guy in the situation. So I think it was good that she didn't really say much. Now, things ended up getting even more awkward at the dinner table when Jessica White decided to say that she loves everybody that's on the trip, and then she says, including you, Spice, and that's when Spice starts looking at her some type of way, because she doesn't understand what Jessica White is trying to say. And that's when Jessica explains to Spice and everybody at the table that when they were in the Bahamas, she felt like Spice was being mean to her. But Spice kind of shut down what Jessica White was saying and said to Jessica that she doesn't even really know who she is. So at that point, Jessica White decided to end the conversation, because she realizes really quickly that if Spice is not even going to acknowledge that she knows who she is, then Spice is definitely not going to give her an apology, which is what Jessica White ultimately wanted. Now, I do think that it was a little bit rude that Spice basically just came out and said that she didn't even know who Jessica White was, because I'm pretty sure she knows that she has met Jessica White before. Jessica was definitely on that trip in the Bahamas, and I'm pretty sure Spice remembers her. But I think that the reason why Spice kind of shut down Jessica White is because she feels like Jessica has a preconceived notion about her, because she's really buddy-buddy with Karlie right now. So now Renni starts bringing the conversation back to Bambi and Sierra, and she says that Sierra just feels some type of way because she feels like Bambi did not show up for her the way that she feels like she shows up for Bambi. And that's when Bambi said that she doesn't feel like she needs to go on social media to show that she's a real friend to Sierra. And she also said that when they were in the Bahamas and Shekinah and Spice were yelling at her, that Sierra didn't say anything to them about it, and that's when Sierra admitted that she did not try to defend Bambi that day, but the next day she did tell Spice that she was wrong, and that's when Spice immediately ends up shutting down the conversation, which I thought was really rude, and you can tell that Sierra felt some type of way about that too, and she started saying that they don't need to talk about this and that they have to be up early because they have to go play in the snow the next day. And I really don't know if Spice really did that because she didn't want the night to get ruined with a huge argument, or if she just did not want to bring up the things that she was doing in the Bahamas, because we know that that wasn't really a good side of Spice that we saw in the Bahamas. So I really don't know the real reason why Spice shut that conversation down so quickly, but now I can tell that there's a little bit of tension between Spice and Sierra, because Sierra does end up telling Spice that she did not like the way that Spice shut down the conversation. After dinner, Jessica White, Bambi, and Karlie all get together and have a conversation, and Jessica starts saying that she's really upset at the fact that nobody ever holds Spice accountable. Basically, Karlie was saying that she feels like everybody kisses Spice's ass and they don't want to be on her bad side, and that's the reason why nobody ever tells her she's wrong. And I agree with what Karlie is saying, because I don't think that people call out Spice when she's wrong. But I will say I don't think that it's just a Spice thing. I think it's whoever they really like on the show, they're not going to go against them. I see the same thing on Basketball Wives. Like, if Jackie does something, everybody's going to call her out and say she's wrong. But let's say Brooke or Evelyn do something, everybody's going to defend their behavior. So I understand where Karlie is coming from. And despite the fact that there's a lot of tension in the group because a lot of people don't get along with each other and they're forced to be in the same place at the same time, they were all able to put their differences aside the next day and really enjoy themselves in the snow. They actually ended up going dog sledding, and they also rode on the snowmobiles, and everybody had a really good time. I don't think that every episode needs to be full of drama, so I think that watching them have fun in the snow was actually really enjoyable to watch, and I think it was good that they did not allow the tension that they have with each other to really mess up their day. And at the very end of this episode, after they were finished playing in the snow, Jessica White somehow ends up in the same car with Spice, and that's when Spice ends up questioning Jessica White as to what she was talking about at the dinner table the previous night. So Jessica ends up telling Spice that her feelings were hurt in the Bahamas, and that's the reason why she wanted to address it at dinner. But once she realized that Spice really didn't want to acknowledge the situation, that's when she decided to just not talk about it anymore. So Spice ends up telling Jessica that she understands how she feels, because she said that her feelings were actually hurt by Jessica White in the Bahamas too, because she felt like Jessica had a preconceived notion about her, and that's the reason why she was questioning her the way she was after she got into it with Bambi in the Bahamas. And Jessica does end up admitting that she did have a preconceived notion about Spice because of her friendship with Karlie and her friendship with Bambi, but that she wants to get to know Spice for herself, and that's when Spice ends up apologizing to Jessica White for the way that she treated her in the Bahamas, and Jessica White also ends up apologizing to Spice. I mean, I think that they handled this conversation really well. There was no fight between the two of them. Nobody cut each other off. Spice was able to acknowledge that she hurt Jessica's feelings. Jessica was able to acknowledge that she had a preconceived notion about Spice. And then the two of them both apologized, and they decided to work things out and try to have a friendship. I hope everything works out with the two of them. But because there's a lot of unresolved issues on the group trip, I don't know how things are going to end up going in the next episode. So those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button for me. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos and hit the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all. And until next time, I will talk to you guys in my next video.